All right, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving into something pretty wild by pitting two completely different concepts of survival right against each other. On one hand, you've got your classic, legendary clashes of comic book icons. Think about Batman squaring off against Captain America, right? That's the kind of fight where stamina just seems completely limitless and backup is literally always just a quick radio call away. But on the other hand, we have the terrifying, incredibly high-stakes reality of deep-sea survival against a prehistoric apex predator. So we're going to break down exactly what happens when that idealized world of hero battles completely collides with the chaotic, totally unforgiving environment of the deep ocean.
I can do this all day. I've got friends too. I mean, that quote right there just perfectly captures the essence of a standard superhero brawl. When you're a comic book icon wearing a cape or carrying a vibranium shield, you have the ultimate luxury. You've got incredible endurance, a whole team of allies ready to jump into the fray, and honestly, you usually have enough breath left over to throw in some witty banter. But what happens when you take that exact combat mindset and just drop it right into the middle of the ocean, face to face with a totally unpredictable force of nature? Okay, let's dive into this ultimate contrast. In those hero battles we were just talking about, it's all about teamwork and having endless stamina. But when you are dealing with extreme ocean survival, and specifically, survival against a massive threat like a Megalodon, the rules completely change. You aren't dealing with some supervillain who wants to stand there and monologue at you. You're dealing with total isolation, failing life support equipment, and immediate lethal danger. There is absolutely no doing this all day when you are holding your breath in the freezing dark.
Section 1. The Prehistoric Threat. To really wrap our heads around the sheer terror of this scenario, we need to look a little closer at the specific threat our sources detail. We are leaving the Cape Crusaders behind and swimming straight into the jaws of prehistoric nature. And man, this redefines the entire engagement. We are talking about the Megalodon. According to our sources, this isn't just a big fish. It is a creature that is highly aggressive toward boats. And that right there completely eliminates your primary source of armor. You can't just casually sail up to it and drop a shark cage. In fact, the source dialogue explicitly states that the safest way to approach is actually without a vehicle, because a single person alone in the water isn't perceived as a threat. Think about that for a second. The crew is totally unprepared for a long-term engagement, so their literally only option is to send a solitary human swimming directly at a prehistoric monster.
And hey, if you thought swimming out there alone was bad, get a load of this number, 100. That is the exact range, in feet, of the GPS tracker rifle the crew actually has to use. So the really crucial, terrifying point here is that whoever draws the short straw to swim out to this beast cannot just snipe it from a safe distance. No way. They have to get within 100 feet of a shark the size of a submarine before they can even pull the trigger to tag its dorsal fin. It is an incredibly dangerous, close-quarters tactic born out of absolute desperation.
Which brings us to Section 2, Ocean Predator Survival Guide. So, you're probably wondering, how do you actually survive an encounter like this? Well, based on the intense tactical discussions from the crew in our source material, we can extract a pretty structured, practical survival guide. Remember, you can't just brawl with it. You have to follow strict survival steps. Step 1, keep your motion incredibly smooth. The dialogue notes that sharks are highly attracted to panic motion and vibration, so you can't go thrashing around. You have to stay impossibly calm. Step 2, get within that terrifying 100-foot range we talked about and tag the dorsal fin with a GPS tracker so your team can actually monitor the threat. And step 3, when it really is time to engage, you can't just punch it in the nose. You have to target the anatomical soft spots, specifically the eyes or the gills, and inject something lethal. It's a highly calculated, high-risk surgical strike. Definitely not a fist fight.
But, as our sources heavily emphasize, you can have the best, most meticulously engineered survival guide in the world, and the deep ocean will still find a way to tear it completely apart. Even the absolute best structured plans just disintegrate when unpredictable variables come into play.
Just consider this genuinely terrifying realization from the crew. That cage will not break. That's the problem. The cage is being swallowed. I mean, wow. This is basically a masterclass in how human safety equipment can instantly become a deadly trap. They engineered a cage that could withstand the crushing bite of the Megalodon, sure, but they totally failed to account for the fact that the shark's mouth was simply big enough to swallow the whole thing. The very thing designed to save them is literally pulling them down into the belly of the beast. And honestly, it gets worse. In a normal action scenario up on land, if your armor gets a little dented, you just keep fighting. But down in the deep ocean, The failure of your basic life support systems is an immediate death sentence. A broken mask isn't just a minor inconvenience, it means you are actively losing air. Every single second becomes a countdown.
And here is where we reach peak environmental hostility. Air depleted, visor failure imminent. Think back to the very beginning of our explainer, to that superhero who could quote-unquote do this all day. Let me tell you, in the crushing depths of the ocean, you absolutely do not have all day. You don't have endless stamina. When your oxygen hits zero and your visor starts cracking under the pressure, the fight is over. The ocean environment itself is every bit as deadly a predator as the giant sharks swimming through it.
Section 3. The ethics of survival.
Now, surviving that immediate physical danger, that's really only half the story here. The human reaction brings some seriously dark ethical fallout along with it. As one character reflects on the whole catastrophic ordeal, they hit us with this line: "We did what people always do, discover and then destroy." What started off as this monumental scientific discovery of a prehistoric ecosystem just rapidly devolved into a frantic mission to kill the very thing they found. And it's not even just about the Megalodon either. The text also points out the gruesome reality of modern shark poachers, mentioning normal sharks being found with their fins brutally cut off just for a bowl of soup. It really paints a pretty grim picture of mankind's relationship with the natural world.
But you know what might actually be the most chilling part of this entire narrative? It isn't the giant shark. It's what happens right after the breach is closed. The survival mode ends, and this cold, calculated, institutional damage control immediately begins. Let's break down this incredibly cynical corporate response depicted in the sources, because it's wild. The executives realize pretty much instantly that they need a cover story for all this chaos and the escaping megalodons. So, what's their strategy? Well, first, they throw the very people who actually saved them right under the bus by blaming quote-unquote reckless individuals, like Jonas. Second, they manufacture this shiny, fake new narrative by promoting someone else, Jess, into leadership to act as a newly minted hero. And finally, they take this absolute scientific tragedy and figure out how to spin it for positive PR just to protect the Institute's funding. Honestly, it really makes you wonder who the real monsters of the story actually are.
Which leads us to our final thought for this explainer. We started out by comparing idealized heroes to the incredibly harsh reality of deep-sea survival. But when you look at the destruction, the environmental exploitation, and that icy corporate spin that followed, we really have to ask ourselves, when we encounter prehistoric nature, are we the surviving heroes, or are we actually the ultimate predators? Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating breakdown with me, and definitely keep questioning what you discover.